Welcome back to another Draw Jam session with Rufusman. Today we are following a character prompt, Mermaid character prompt generator to be specific, and the character is a mystical mistress of the deep with a dagger. Just be warned, we will be using a reference of a nude model, so now is your chance to step away or save this for after work, okay? But here we go. This was a contest last year around the time of May during the Mermaid thing, for those of you that follow that. Mermaid is a play on words combining the month of May with mermaid, hence Mermaid. Okay? Artists across the social media like Instagram, they love posting certain types of drawings during certain themed months, and it's just something fun. I don't even think it's necessarily curated by a specific group, but as far as this contest goes, you have a prompt provided by their link, and you provide an entry in that theme. This particular prompt, a mistress of the deep with a dagger, it provided me a story already, and for those of you that have been following any of my work in my past videos, I love telling stories, and my art is usually telling some kind of story, whether that's a scene or a moment, and that also includes with how I design the character. So I like the initial pose just because it conveyed a certain emotion for something that's foreboding. But as I've got drawing and sketching this out, it became very clear that this was a very tormented individual. But why? Some artists feel that they need to have everything figured out before they even pick up the pen or pencil or brush. I believe that some of the best work can be found on the fly as you are creating it and developing it. Granted, this particular piece is a different style. It's a little bit more of like a comic book style. It's not so much focusing on a lot of excessive details like shading or value. And that's by intention, because as I try to figure out the why, it becomes clear to me that this is a mermaid that is not your typical living in the Caribbean, singing with a crab kind of mermaid. I can imagine this one being closer to the shore, but not a very charming beachfront or castle. And I envision someone that maybe be living close to a fishing village and is just fed up with the locals. And what kind of locals? Well, probably fishermen, guys that are just doing their job. They look at the sea as a place to exploit resources from and, pay bills, not necessarily preserve and protect. And this mermaid has suffered a lot of the effects of that type of thinking. She's got barbed wire, she's got fish hooks and other types of garbage netted into her hair and fins. She's got, scarred tail and skin, and she's wielding this ancient-looking dagger, probably maybe a family heirloom or maybe from an old shipwreck or something. And she's ready to just start taking matters into her own hands because she's seen enough death and destruction. Maybe she lost her family due to pollution, and now she's just on her own, a one-person rampage, and she won't be stopped. Have you ever met a person who's just past any reason? Have you seen, or maybe you've experienced that moment of just pure rage or desperation, and logic goes out the window, morality takes on a different shape and form, where you're on a mission, and it might just be a solo mission. Anyways, there's a lot that started coming very clear as I developed this, and it affected how I drew it too. I wanted to be stark shadows, very nice big blocks, of shapes and direct the eye and the viewer to certain details as it goes. There's a loop there, right? I have the tail looping back into her victim, and the blood's coming out of his wound back towards her. And my goal is to get the viewer to be directed back to her eyes, to her expression, that this is an act of raw emotion. Now, with shading, I try to be very selective because I want to, definitely convey like a mood. This is happening perhaps several meters below, the surface, and it's just a visceral moment. This guy's about to sink to the bottom, may never be seen again or heard of again. And this is that one last moment where maybe she's looking at a scuba diver or another fisherman. It's like, you're next. These are things that, when you're drawing something and you don't have a specific message, or maybe there's like a general theme, what you add in there can be an opportunity to give various interpretations for the viewer and have them ask questions or imagine something like, oh, well, what if she is looking at me and I'm supposed to be her next victim? Maybe she's looking at me as a member of the human race that's responsible for this bloodshed and responsible for her pain. I don't imagine that if mermaids really do exist, they would be very happy with humans right now, especially with the, all the fishing we do, the pollution, the mining and all of the stuff we do, just thinking, well, this is our planet, and we're the dominant species, and to heck with any other person or creature that thinks differently. It's very much a Western society thing that, when I look back at like fantastical creatures and thematic themes of, fairy tales in a modern context, it's usually pretty grim. Like, I just have a hard time imagining creatures like mermaids or gnomes or centaurs really finding a place here. I mean, I live in a space where it's very common to see deer, coming into your neighborhood to find food because it's hard to find it, and of course, Mother Nature might have a part to play in that, but I personally believe that humans can definitely do more to help our neighboring species and each other. A mermaid is a great cross-section of that. She's not quite human, not quite animal. She's a little bit of both, and she straddles that. And, I can imagine that being a really interesting dynamic. That could be a great story. And I might even develop this into something more, just because it's such an intriguing concept of a mermaid that's fed up with humans. Rather than save the prince, she'd probably just rather shank him and say, you have what's coming to you, buddy. Like, stop eating all my friends, or stop dumping crap on my family, like literal toxic waste or things like that. I have had enough, and there you go. Anyways, in terms of the drawing itself, you'll notice that I've kept the palette very grayscale, and I don't do a lot of excessive shading. I did a gradient in the background on a different layer. And once again, the idea is more of the emotion, the mood, the action, not so much about, what color her scales are. In fact, keeping it black and white allows the viewer to fill in those blanks. And I don't know if any of you might agree, you could comment below, but to me, sometimes that's the advantage of drawing with monotone or black and white, just because it offers more possibilities, for you to fill in the gaps. And a good artist, I feel, or a good storyteller, allows the viewer to participate. So, anyways, I hope you guys have been enjoying this drawing and this little visit we've had, but I'm happy with this piece. I'm glad you love it, and I'll be sending another mermaid entry as well. But thanks for watching, everybody. Please like and subscribe and all that good stuff, and we'll see you next time.